If you have a desire to become a better version of your current self, then this podcast is for you. I share with you helpful thoughts, tips, and stories around fitness and self-improvement, which you can apply to your life today. For those of you that want to take control of your life, to learn, to grow, to become that which you desire most, I'm your host, Connor Malone, and this is the pursuit of constant improvement. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 tips which you can use and implement today to help skyrocket your fitness and self-improvement over the next 30 days. Okay, so all of these tips I'm going to be going over, you can apply right now. However, one thing I would say is don't take them all at once, okay? You might find some of them are things that you're doing already, but in the case that it's not, I would probably leave it a little bit, try and apply one at a time, and you'll see where you are over the 30 days. But any of these, like anything that we apply to our life, it takes time, it takes consistency to really notice the benefit. So yeah, you've got plenty of options from today. I'm going to go over all of them, explain why you should do them. Any that really appeal to you, just take one and you can apply that. Start today, and over these next 30 days, you'll notice a real difference with your fitness and self-improvement. So getting into the first one, we're starting with something which I call a high performance day. Okay, now this is something I've done for just over 8-9 months now. And what it is essentially one day a week where you are an exceedingly high performer. Okay, now every day ideally is a high performance day. Okay, you in the sense that if you are ambitious, you want to get the most you can out of every single day. However, with a high performance day, the thought is it's a day that you couldn't naturally attain throughout your whole life. And what I mean by that is simply that if you to do this every single day, you would likely burn out and it wouldn't be beneficial long term. So for example, if I go over mine, what I do is I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I go for a run, which is something I really don't like doing. I get uncomfortable. That's the first thing I do. I get up, I go for a run, and it allows me to get an hour or two of deep work in before I actually go to work, because I work in a gym. I usually start at 6 or 7 in the morning, so I get some deep work in. Now, the high performance day really comes from the morning, but in the sense where I mean that it's not attainable or sustainable long term. If I had to do this every single day, I would have to go to my bed at 8 and 9 o'clock. I usually work till 9 or 10, so you can see where it wouldn't be sustainable. So the thought with this is just pick one day a week. You would plan it ahead of time that you're going to get really, really uncomfortable and try these things, which I'm going to explain to you. Okay. So again, with, like I said, the high performance day, one of the most important things is it's about practicing discipline. It's about getting uncomfortable. So for me, that's getting up early. Now, of course, to some of you, that might be a normal thing for you, and maybe something that isn't terribly difficult, then fine. And maybe you can wake up any day. But for most of us, getting up early, particularly at 4 o'clock in the morning, is very, very uncomfortable. Now, not only do I do that, but I get up on my very first alarm, which is something that I never do. I'll set multiple alarms, I'll kind of snooze them. I'll know when I need to get up, but for like 10-15 minutes, I'll lie in my bed and then I'll get up. So that's one thing already. So it makes me very uncomfortable. I get straight out of my bed, I get my clothes on, I get ready to go a run, which at that time in the morning, it's cold, it's not nice, it makes me uncomfortable, okay? But this is what kickstarts this high performance day. Because as I've spoke about before, and I'm sure you'll know, great things come from overcoming times of discomfort, which is why we do this. So when you're planning a high performance day, start it with something uncomfortable. Again, I don't eat, I'll have some water or whatever, I'm straight out and I'm running. Okay, it doesn't need to be a long run, it just needs to be quite a relatively intense run, particularly towards the end. Make yourself uncomfortable. That's how we start this day. And then there you go. And then that's how I start mine. It's with a little bit of a win. So once I do that, I'll then go home, I'll read my daily readers. I've got a little bit of kind of a habit in terms of what tasks I'll do, but I'll also try and do something I don't want to do in the sense of my work. I'll do work that I've maybe been putting off for a while, again, making myself uncomfortable. But once these hour or 2 hours has passed and I start my day, I'm already exceedingly high performer in the sense that I'm further ahead than the vast majority of people are on the planet. So that's what I mean by high performance. It's something that you couldn't sustain long term. So if you think about it for you, what's something you want to be better at? Do you want to become more disciplined? Do you want to get more work done? Do you want to get better at something specifically? It could be something like learning a language or reading a book. Get up early and get that done before you actually start your day. That's what makes it a high performance day. So it mostly comes from the morning. And I'll come back to the sense where Obviously, I implement it where I've got my fitness, which comes from the run. I have, when I go home, I will read. You can do that as well. Make sure there's a bit of kind of physical health there. There's improving, obviously, the mental side of things. Maybe you meditate. Any of these things that you can do. The whole goal of a high performance day is to perform higher than you would before, challenge yourself and become better. So after 8 or 9 months of these, I've become far more disciplined because I'm doing things I don't want to do. And the more we get used to doing things we don't want to do, the more disciplined we become. So definitely something you could implement into your life. Again, 1 day a week. I plan mine on like a Sunday. I'll look at my week, right? My week's planned in front of me. I'll think, right, so I have an early finish on, say, a Tuesday night, which means I have time to go to bed early, get my high performance day done on Wednesday, for example. So you can plan ahead. But again, could be something for you. Give it some thought, especially if you're somebody who maybe gets up and goes straight to work and doesn't give it a second thought. Get up a little bit earlier. Doesn't need to be 4 a.m. It could just be an hour, 2 hours earlier than you usually do. Start your day strong. That is the start of a high performance day. And you can see where that leads you. But yeah, the next one we're going on to is in relation to more so our fitness. Now, what I kind of label this as is finishing hard work with a burnout. Okay, now hard work would be something as simple as a workout, but sometimes particularly if you resistance train, you'll go through a workout and you might feel not too bad at the end, which is almost how we should feel. But what I want you to do is finish with a burnout, finish with a sprint, finish with something that is going to take a bit of strain. It might only last 30 seconds or a minute. It'll get the heart rate up, it'll get the muscles burning, it'll get the lungs burning. Something that really makes you work, because that's where we enter that form of discomfort. And it tends to be when we become less comfortable and experience discomfort and these burning sensations, some would call pain, that after that we have these positive responses. For example, an increase in dopamine, which we get from cold showers. You get a similar response with like exercise when we feel that burn in our legs and our arms and things like that. So when you are working out, try implementing a burnout or a sprint. It could simply be, let's say you finish your workout, go on a treadmill, sprint as fast as you can for a minute, 2 minutes. Exert yourself, okay? Because when we work hard, it allows us to appreciate the times when we're relaxing. In fact, on that note, I've got a really good quote here that kind of summarizes that very well. It's by a guy called Immanuel Kant, who was a philosopher, a German philosopher. And what he said was, one of the best and purest joys is having a rest after labor. Now, all he means by labor is hard work, essentially. So by finishing your workouts with a burnout or a sprint, you can therefore enjoy your rest more. I'm big on this with weekends. Like, of course, weekends tends to be when we kind of relax and chill out and things like that, which is great. And it can be very well needed at times. But for me, I get a certain anxiety almost if I don't earn it, which may be a good or a bad thing. But to me, I feel like we should earn our rest. Of course, if you're overworked and things like that, that's a different situation. But in general, when you're in good health, you're fighting fit, earn your fucking rest. Don't just be, when it gets to the weekend, doing absolutely nothing and then getting back into these bad habits. Make sure you earn that. If you're sitting and you're watching TV for the night, whatever, brilliant, earn it. Earn your weekend. You'll feel fantastic. You'll feel fulfilled. So when you're on holiday, maybe you think, wow, I worked really hard these past 2 weeks. I worked really, really hard. I've done this, I've done that. You'll earn your rest, okay? And as Immanuel Kant says, that comes from after labor, when we have that sense of joy, that sense of fulfillment, which we get. So that's something you can apply today with your workouts. It also can almost increase your self-awareness to some extent, because let's say you have a really hard workout, you finish it with that sprint, with that burnout. How do you feel after it? You might think, wow, I'm quite proud of myself. I worked hard there. I feel good. And there you go. Something very simple, which you can apply to any of your workouts, whether it's cardio, whether it's weights. Just really, really push yourself towards the end. Get that 1 minute, that 2 minute sprint, and you'll feel far better afterwards. You'll enjoy your rest. Now, the next one is something that I would say is a life hack, to be honest. It's something that I do with all my clients. And what that is a weekly review or a self-analysis. What I call it is a weekly upgrade. Okay, now all that is just reflecting on your week. How's your week been? What have you done well? What hasn't gone so well? That's how we progress. We find what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. Again, improving our self-awareness, because we actually find out more about ourselves. When was the last time you sat and thought to yourself, what did I actually do last week? Did it push me further towards where I want to be? If you're on a weight loss journey at the moment, is your weight down? Are you feeling better? Are you looking better? If not, what happened? What went well? What didn't go well? We need to ask ourselves these questions to be able to progress, to be able to become a high performer. If you're ambitious like me, you need to ask these questions every week. But when you pair that with accountability, that becomes even stronger. If you have somebody else asking you these questions and keeping you accountable to these questions, then you can't lie to yourself. Because of course that is a trap with this, is you could just start saying to yourself, oh, well, this happened or this happened. You can start making excuses. But when you have somebody holding you accountable, they would help you see through that, see past any excuses. So what that helps you with as well, it creates a bulletproof mindset, because you're somebody who can go through life, not just striding through it, but also being able to reflect and look back and see, right, where am I going? What am I doing well? What am I not doing well? That's how we make real progression, by finding out what's going well and what's not going well. But not only when we find that out, we actually change it. Okay, so with self-reflection, like I said, I do it with all my clients. My clients have set questions that they answer every single week. It can break down how they're feeling mentally, how they're feeling physically. You can ask set questions which unlock sometimes a whole barrage of just thoughts that they didn't even know they had. So by asking yourself set questions, you might not even know the answers, but you ask them and then boom, you just start reflecting on everything, and it opens the floodgates for growth, for adaptation, for you to become better by doing that. And the only way to do that, as I've said, is to reflect, because not only do you become better, but what you also become is more grateful. You become more grateful for the good, because you highlight it every single week. You think, right, well, if you ask yourself, what are 3 things that went well last week? Now, in the beginning, you may struggle. You may think, well, I didn't do too much, whatever. But when you really get good at this, because this is essentially practicing gratitude, you pick out tiny wee things. Oh, I spent time with so-and-so. Oh, I had time to read my book. These things, they mean a lot. You just have to realize them. And you can't realize them unless you reflect. So again, you can do that. I do mine on a Sunday personally. My clients do it on a Sunday. They upgrade for the week ahead by asking these set questions. And that's where I can work best with them as well, because I can't give them the feedback they need without them reflecting. And it allows me to really dissect that. So something well worth it. Now, one thing I love about reflecting as well is it keeps you aligned with your purpose, in the sense that, what is your focus at the moment? Are you trying to become wiser? Are you trying to learn more? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to gain muscle? What are you trying to do? You can look at your week and say, right, well, what did I actually do within that week? Did it help me push forward towards my goals? It can be simple as a yes or a no. If no, why not? What can I do next week to improve? That's a really good question, because you could have the best week in the world, but there can still be something that you can improve. Something that you may notice to think, oh, right, that's something I can improve for next week. But you only get the answers to these by asking yourself the questions, by reflecting. Now, I've advised people to do this quite a bit, and what people struggle with is like, well, what questions do I ask? Now, I'll give you a couple very simply. First of all, what went well last week? Name 3 things that went well last week. That's all you need to ask them. They're wins for the week, things to be grateful for, and really break that down, because it does not matter how bad your week was. I guarantee you, if you spend time thinking about it, you can find 3 things that went well. The fact you're still there at the end of the week's one. So I'll give one for you. But another question you could ask was, what could I do better next week? Like, very simply, what is one thing that I could improve upon? Now, it could be, for example, let's say your workouts, maybe they weren't intense enough. Maybe it was your reading you skipped today. Maybe you could just make sure that you're on the ball with that more next week. And as a coach, what I would do is say, right, well, how can we do that? We've addressed what we need to do. Now, how can we do that? Maybe we set a short-term goal. Let's make sure you do it on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I would hold them accountable to that. But you can also, if you're quite a strong-willed person, you hold yourself accountable to that. Okay, so you don't necessarily need somebody else holding you accountable. It just helps. Now, I have 5 very good questions that you can use to ask yourself every week. It could be whatever day you like. If you want access to those 5 questions, just drop me a DM on Instagram. All I want you to send me is the wee praying emoji. It's like this. If you send that, the hands coming together, you'll know what I mean. If you send me that, I will send you those 5 questions. You can use them every Sunday, every Monday, whatever day of the week you want to reflect on your week, and I'll send you them for free. no questions asked. But on to the next part, something I love, is about a self-improvement book. Okay, now this genre, self-improvement, self-help, comes under criticism sometimes, because what do you define as self-help? What do you define as self-improvement? Now, to me, it's anything that betters yourself. Now, that could be physically, that could be mentally, it could be many different ways. So a self-help book, people would say, oh, it needs to be non-fiction or whatever. Well, to me, that's nonsense, because there's a lot to learn from fiction and non-fiction. So I wouldn't worry too much about what book it is, but any form of book that's going to make you a better person, read it. Because reading is a superpower that we have access to. We can unlock thoughts from the greatest minds that have ever lived through books. We live in a time now where all the greatest people that have ever lived before us, there is, for most of them, some form of writing that they have left behind. For example, my favourite book is called The Meditations. It's by a guy called Marcus Aurelius, who's a Roman emperor. You imagine this, the most powerful man on earth, and I have access to his personal diary. What he was thinking every day, how he developed, how he's seen other people. That's incredible. We have access to that, and you can buy it for £10 on Amazon. It's unbelievable. So if you're at the moment, you're not taking advantage of reading, which would then allow you to stimulate these thoughts and learn from these people, you're missing out. You will go through life missing out from that. So yeah, I would highly recommend that. And one quote I love, which is from Socrates, which I'll read to you now, it really kind of summarizes this very well. And what he says was, employ your time in improving yourself by reading other men's writing, so that you gain easily what others laboured hard for. Now, if I take you back to Marcus Aurelius, he lived, for 58 years, and for a good chunk of those years, he was the most powerful man on earth. I will never, very unlikely experience anything like that, but I can learn from his 58 years just by reading this book. Everything he's learned, I can absorb, I can take action on. And if that doesn't speak to you, then maybe there's more you need to do, but there's so much potential within reading that if you're not doing, you're leaving there for that. And reading as well, it's like fitness for the mind. It's reading for the mind is like cardio is for the heart. It develops, it adapts it, it keeps it sharp, it keeps it alive, it keeps blood flowing. So like I've spoke about it before, neuroplasticity, one of the things that helps us remember things, it's stimulated by reading. There's different pathways in the brain that are stimulated by reading. And now when it comes to reading as well, as a lot of people will be like, well, I don't know what to read. First of all, read what you like, read what you enjoy. If you pick up a book and you're 100 pages in, or if you're, bugger that, if you're 30 pages in, you're not enjoying it, put it away. Now may not be the right time to read this book. Okay, just because somebody else has said it's the best book ever does not mean it will be for you. What you'll find is when you read a book, if you reread them throughout different points in your life, it will speak different things to you. It will mean different things. You'll get more from it at different points in your life. So don't worry if somebody says this is the best book since sliced bread and you think it's rubbish. You can reread it later down the line. So I wouldn't worry about that. However, if you do want book recommendations, I will leave you with a few. I'm not big on giving book recommendations. I like people to explore them and find them for themselves. That's what I've done, and I find that the best way, by just literally searching up what you're interested in and find things from there, things that are within books. Now, 3 books that I have written down is, one is Atomic Habits, which is a very famous book. It's a very good book based on, of course, habits, which most people, I believe, should read. You can read it from pretty much any circumstance. If you're trying, whether you're incredibly ambitious about bettering yourself or not, Atomic Habits will teach you a lot about habits, how you can change them, how you can create better ones, and how you can get rid of worse ones and bad ones. So they could be well worth a read. It's not the longest book ever either. Another one I love is called Ikigai. Now, I may pronounce that wrong, but essentially it is a Japanese word that means something along the lines of purpose. Okay, it's about finding your purpose. Your Ikigai is like this purpose. It's a very good book. It's quite a short book and it's very well written. So if you search it up, it's, I believe, Ikegui. If you search that up, I could have butchered that spelling, but if you search that up on Amazon, it will come up. It's a blue cover. Very good book, especially for somebody that's just started reading books and you want to develop, you want to improve yourself, you're ambitious about your own self-improvement. That would be a really good book for you. Another book that comes to mind is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which, yes, is the book title. It's by a guy called Mark Manson, and it is an excellent book. Not too long, very well written. You could call it self-improvement, self-help. I would highly recommend that. The title will probably lure you in. So if you haven't read that, I would recommend that. Adding it to your list with that one. But again, to finish that off, all I need to say with reading books is it is the potential key to unlocking your intellectual, like anything you have that you haven't yet explored, a book can help you do that. Okay, so yeah, very, very good one to add in there. One that can easily be added in. In fact, if you do not have a book and you're unsure of what to buy, drop me a DM with the word book. I may buy you one. You never know. I will buy one or two of you a book. If you drop me that word, I'll have a little chat with you, find out what you would like to read. I would more than happily do that to start somebody's self-improvement journey. So again, drop me a wee DM. I can help you out with that. Now, the last one is one of my favorites because it follows on from the last one. And what it is creating a second brain. Okay, so let's say you start reading, you're doing really well. Maybe you do it already. You absorb all this knowledge. Excellent. Now, what do you do with that? Because people assume we have to remember it. That isn't the case because you won't. We're incapable of doing that as humans. We're incapable of remembering everything that we read. So what you can do is create a second brain. Now, all that means is through an app on your phone, on your laptop, I use one called Notion, but I started by using my notes app on my iPhone. If you look at the notes on my iPhone, I have over 400 quotes. I have over 1,000 different notes split into different folders, which I've correlated over the past 4 years from things I've learned, whether that's quotes, whether it's thoughts from others, whether it's my own thoughts. But the thought with this is to get things out of your mind, because you do not want to cloud your mind. Your mind should be used for thinking, not as a storage for not as a warehouse for facts. Okay, so it shouldn't be used just to store useful facts and quotes and things. They may come at certain times, but get information out of your mind and get it onto a sheet of paper, get it onto a laptop. I like the aspect of the iPhone Notes app because I feel like iPhones will be around as long as I live, and as long as I have access to that, I will be able to look back in 30 years' time on my thoughts, on my learnings. So again, that's the powerful thing with reading is, yes, you can learn a lot, but you can also take note of that and study it again and again and again, which you can do through this second brain. So storing your learnings, that's really what we're doing. We're not relying on remembering everything with that one. An extra wee hack that I would like to talk about is when you're in the car, if you're lucky enough to have a car with Siri on the steering wheel, so you can press the kind of voice command, and what you can do is you can say, "Hey Siri, take a note." And what that will do is allow you to say something and it gets stored in your phone, of course, if you have an iPhone. Now, the way I use that is if I'm, for example, when I was in the car coming through here today, I was listening to an audiobook and there was a quote I really liked. And all I said was, "Hey Siri, take a note." And that quote may be, "Diligence is the mother of good luck." And then that will take that note. And then 2 hours later, 2 days later, I can go in my notes and think, "Oh, that's a great quote. I'll put that into a set folder." So everything connects. This learning, all this learning will connect, but it won't just stay in your brain. It will get put into this second brain of yours. So again, you can start by using the Notes app on your iPhone. Just things you learn. Create a folder for your learnings, for quotes, for things that you like. Or you can use an app called Notion. It is free. It is incredible. It is like Microsoft Word on steroids. There's a million different things you can do with it. I would highly recommend that because you will thank yourself in years to come for creating this second brain. And it's something that you can start right now. Even in 30 days' time, the fact that you'll be like, "Wow, everything I've learned or wanted to learn over the past 30 days, I have written down." It's a very powerful thing. Now, to finish off, I like to leave points where you can take action on. There's one very simple thing that I want you to do, and it's just pick one of these. Pick one of these 5 tips that I've given you here today. If you've not used them already in your life, start them. Maybe it's starting that book, that self-improvement book, starting reading about something you're interested in. Maybe it's finishing that workout with that burnout, with that sprint, to then earn your rest and feel better when you're resting, to get that feeling of fulfillment with that rest, with that feeling of joy. But again, you can pick any of those because all of them they're all great things to do, and you can take action on all of them immediately. So very good options for you. Now, as always, I like to finish these episodes with a quote. So I will leave you with a quote from a man who I've spoke about already today. His name is Marcus Aurelius. Again, this man was the most powerful man on earth in his time. He wrote a journal to himself, which is now called the Meditations. He never intended for anybody to read it. So what I'm about to read to you was something he was writing for himself. He was basing it on his own thoughts, but it's very applicable to any of us here. And it's quite short, but it's very, very powerful. So I will explain it. But the quote goes like this: get busy with life's purpose. Toss aside empty hopes. Get active in your own rescue. Now, what that means is getting busy with life's purpose. It means make sure that you have intention with your days, what you're working towards. Don't just flow through life. And when he talks about tossing empty hopes aside, don't be somebody that's blaming others and hoping for this, hoping for that. Toss them aside. And he finishes by saying, get active in your own rescue. You're the only one that's going to help yourself. If you want to become wiser, you want to improve your physical health, your mental health, you're going to be the one that picks up that book, starts reading, that goes to the gym. It's you. You're the one that's going to rescue yourself, no one else. So until you realize that, you will never be rescued. So again, get active in your own rescue. And to me, that can be done through your own pursuit of constant improvement. So yeah, I hope you liked that one. I hope you enjoyed that. Of course, with every quote, you can interpret the way you like. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, feel free to drop me a DM on Instagram. Reach out to me. My Instagram is Connor Malone PT. I will leave it in the show notes as well. But at the end of the day, you've spent something very valuable with me today. You've spent your valuable time listening to what I have to say. So I hope you've found value from it. If you have found that ounce of value from today, ask just one thing of you. Take one thing you have learned about, apply it in your life, and pursue constant improvement. Thank you for listening.